TikTok's art community yet again remains to be a dumpster fire of chaos, and today I'm going to cover a situation that really intrigues me. Hey, I'm Bri and I enjoy doing commentary about random art topics, so if you enjoy this video, consider liking and subscribing. Just before we start, I'd also like to make a quick disclaimer not to go out of your way to harass anyone mentioned. I want to clarify this is not hate for anyone mentioned in the video, and while yes, I do disagree with some actions, I'm still going to try and see through the eyes of both sides while not defending any actions, but trying to properly correct actions, claims, and misunderstandings, and give my opinions. I'm going to put aside actions outside the situation to get a clear opinion on the situation itself, while forming my opinions on the actions within this drama. I might not make content like this again because I don't really like speaking on specific people as the main and singular topic of my video, but I did want to speak on art style theft and my opinions on it since there is a point here that I want to make about it, and I wanted to make a long-length video, but I didn't really know how to do it with that topic since it's kind of a short and simple answer. Not only that, but this topic was pretty interesting and had stirred up a split in who is right and who is wrong, more being on one side, but many still defending the other. If I do make similar videos to this, they'll most likely be art surrounded, like this video, since I do want to keep my content strictly talking about the topic of art. This video will mostly be a run-through of the situation, my thoughts, and a small section with my thoughts on art style theft. I also mostly made this video since a lot of confusion is circling around the issue. Anyway, let's get to the video. So I recently found out the user Puririkaaa, who I'm going to refer to as Riri for the rest of the video, is the person known as the creator, or at least the person to popularize the jelly art style. You're probably wondering what's going on then. Why is she all so hated all of a sudden? She recently got into a bit of drama after she apparently sent her fans after someone who she claimed traced her work. She also got into a bit of controversy with the YouTuber Dolly Estra after they made a video on the jelly art style, which wasn't even about the style or Riri, it was more about the TikTok algorithm. I'm assuming Riri thought Dolly was referring to her and her style and attacking her, and spoke about the video publicly in her server, gathering hate to the YouTuber. And she apparently also falsely accused her of terrible things. Now, I'm not going to go into the Dolly situation since I want to keep my content art related and not just talking about dramas, so I probably won't cover it. But this TikTok account speaks on the situation if you're interested, and I'll even link their account in the description. But I decided to bring both things up to explain the reasons of the hate she's receiving. But back to the main situation. So an account that has since been deleted posted a drawing that looked a lot like Riri's, which many believed was traced. Riri obviously got annoyed by this piece she thought was traced, and posted on her Discord server talking about it negatively with over 3,000 people. This gathered mass hate to the artist, who is 13. Riri herself is 18. The ages might not seem important to some, but it will become important in a bit. I actually went to join the server to see it myself, but was unfortunately faced with the server's invite being inactive. I heard it's because of the drama that's now circling TikTok, though many have said they saw the drama unfold themselves. And look, I get Riri cannot control her fans into not hating, but when you talk negatively about someone while tagging your entire server with the everyone ping, this will lead to harassment, even if it wasn't wanted, especially when your fan base is on TikTok and Discord, which both are known for drama. Which is why, in my opinion, she should have at least clarified not to harass the artist. You could argue she might have not known, but anyone who's been on the internet, especially TikTok long enough, should have known this is the expected outcome. Now, people are trying to make it seem like she just directly went out and said, hey, harass this person, but that's just not true. She did make a message that was negative, talking bad about them, but I don't think she wanted them to get harassed. But then again, she told someone to off themselves because they didn't like her style, so I could be wrong, and if I am, let me know. I also want to add that the harassment the user went through was not only Riri's fault, but her fans also. She made that message negatively, yes, but they are the ones who decided to go out and act that way. So it's not just her who needs to be held accountable for this, but the fans who thought it was a good idea to start harassing this poor kid. The artist eventually showed proof that the art wasn't traced and was just heavily referenced, and I'll put the video here. A lot of people claim that the speed paint looks choppy, but that just happens on Ibis Paint when you speed it up. People also point out how some features just appear, but it's very obviously copy and paste. Now, Riri has stated she does not want people heavily referencing her work. This is understandable, but it unfortunately will not stop people. This does not excuse their actions, but is simply just an unfortunate fact. But if an artist states they do not want their work heavily referenced, you should respect them. It's something that's been getting mixed up that I want to clear up, is that by heavily referencing, I'm pretty sure she means copying exact designs and poses they're in, and trying to replicate her pieces, not the art style itself, since she did make tutorials, and stated that she made her server to help younger artists. So I don't really think that she was trying to say that she didn't want people using the jelly art style. She said using her work as inspiration is fine, but heavily referencing to the point where it looks similar isn't, which that should be respected. That is a wrong on the user's part, but it still isn't an excuse for the harassment they received. Honestly, her fans should have just been polite about it and not harass them to the point of their account being removed. But that's the internet and there's no stopping it. I also think a major issue is that Riri could have just made a video speaking in general, not targeting someone specific, since they definitely weren't the only one on TikTok doing this. There were so many people doing this kind of stuff, and she could have just made a clarification video, not mentioning specific people, or at least again, stating not to harass the creators involved. And yes, while it's the internet and people probably still would have harassed them, Riri most likely would have received way less hate since she obviously wouldn't have condoned it. And there probably would have been more polite comments trying to guide the user instead of just bash them. But then again, it's TikTok, so I'm not really sure. After everything that occurred, creators began to call out Riri for her actions, causing hate to her page, and her fans going ahead to hate on the people calling her out. And some of the users' pieces did go off of Riri's tutorials, and my response to that is, why get mad at someone when they follow your tutorials if you're going to post it in the first place? Well, yes, you don't want people heavily referencing, but when following tutorials, they're most likely going to follow it exactly to make sure they get it right. Although this does not apply to this piece as it's obviously heavily referenced, even having similar hair. But no, this does not change the fact she does not want her work heavily referenced. But something that might have helped her in this situation is a clarification in her tutorial videos or her captions to let people know, hey, do not directly copy off of this tutorial, just use it as a small reference. I honestly think Riri should just apologize for making those public posts about the user accusing them of tracing, since it was extremely immature and could have just been settled in DMs or at least the comment section. I'd understand a bit more if she did this if the user purposely did it out of a malicious intent, but it doesn't really seem to be the case, especially after their mutual came out and said that the original poster did not want to anger Riri. And look, I think she's in the right in the reason why she's mad. She has every right to be upset. But her actions going about things were very immature, and that's the reason why she's in the wrong. She publicly laughed at the artist, mocked them with the "this might be Riri," and insinuated that they traced in a video. Now, she was fine to think they traced, but she could have just asked for a speed paint to make sure. But instead, she jumped to conclusions and publicly shamed this user, when it wasn't even the case and they didn't even trace. I'm not trying to force her to apologize though, just stating a suggestion that might help her case and help her hold herself accountable since she is in the wrong with the way she went about things since she's dealing with someone way younger than her. Although she probably won't apologize since she stated the engagement just simply helps her make money, and she also believes she wasn't in the wrong and that she'd do it again, both being said in message and in a live stream, which I'll show the clips now.
After all this whole thing, I got so much views lately and, my TikTok balance is increasing. Like, it's bad, but it's also good at the same time because I'm getting account engagement. Like, I'm getting more. Actually, I did a lot of the things that I've been called out for, but I'm standing with my point. I didn't think what I did was wrong. Like, if I have the chance to do it again, I'll do it again, over and over. I don't know why I'm getting cancelled for calling people out to trace my art. Like, what?
I'm not even going to defend her here. Riri's response is completely immature and gross, since she's admitting that knowing with the harassment this kid got, she'd still do this all again because she likes the clout and doesn't view her actions as wrong. There's no defending these statements, and it's just weird to like gaining clout for a situation like this. Before watching this clip, I tried to be a bit understanding with her as she's definitely just some immature person, and I thought, well, maybe she just acted immaturely and maybe afterwards she might have realized her actions were wrong. But nope. These clips clearly show she does not care whatsoever about the consequences she put on others with her actions. Now let's bring up the age arguments that have been circling around. I'm honestly not a big fan of the argument unless the person in question is over 25, since the brain isn't fully developed until then. This is why I mentioned the ages earlier, since this is a constant argument I see. This obviously never excuses actions, but it does let people know that they are probably dealing with someone who's immature, and also that they should try and educate the person properly first. This also lets you know that they're most likely not going to take you seriously no matter how polite you try to be. Most people are saying since Riri is 18, she should be mature enough to know when she's in the wrong. The thing is, the second someone turns 18 does not make them automatically mature. Just because she's legally an adult does not make her mentality all mature. They should, however, start trying to mature as they enter adulthood. This is why holding people accountable in a reasonable way is better than harassment, because blindly hating will just make them view you as a hater and they will just ignore you and won't learn anything. Holding them accountable is way better since you're actually explaining what actions they did wrong. And while they may not listen to you in the present, they might listen to you in the future and they might use these comments to grow as a person because they'll realize that they were in the wrong as they mature. And some people may say, well, I'm 18 or even younger and I know that's wrong. But still, everyone's maturity is different. Now, I'm not saying Riri did not know she was wrong. She's not an infant. She's capable of knowing right and wrong, but Riri most likely knew her actions were wrong, but her being an immature 18-year-old reacted in an immature way. That's basically my whole point on the age thing, is that sometimes young people know they're in the wrong, but they don't know how absolutely immature they're being. And some do, but their immaturity makes them not care. But of course, this is not always the case, and some people are just bad people. Now, to clarify, this is not an excuse for her actions. She's still in the wrong in how she reacted, and her age does not mean it's an excuse, but I just think the argument isn't that solid when it comes to the situation, since an 18-year-old could still be very immature. People complain that people are babying the 13-year-old, then most of them turn around and baby Riri. That was a big example of the age arguments not being the best route. I think people should not be blindly hating on her, but properly and respectfully correcting her, and if she chooses not to listen, then she chooses not to, and that's her decision. And that's unfortunately it. As many of us want her to apologize, if she doesn't want to, then she simply won't, because we quite literally cannot force her to. But I do think as the older person in this, she should have stopped and went about things better, especially with the fact she's dealing with someone younger than her. My best advice regarding her is that if you do not agree with her or like her, do not engage with her page, because she wants your engagement. And if you really want to do something, doing nothing is better in this situation, unless you're making a respectful correction post, since comments on her page just help her views. And I'm assuming you guys do not want to help her with that. Not only that, but harassing her just makes your actions no better than hers. Now, since I've been discussing Riri a bit, let's talk about the user who heavily referenced her art, since I'm not going to paint them as some saints since they did do a wrong here. There is not the same level of her actions, but still wrong nonetheless. As I've stated before, Riri does not want her work heavily referenced, and by looking at this piece she posted in the server, the similarities are very close, including the hair. I think if they wanted to heavily reference, they could do it, but they shouldn't have posted it since it crosses her boundaries. Now obviously it's the internet, and to many, boundaries are just simply a word, but it does not make their actions any less wrong. They're 13, so yes, they're gonna be immature, but as I've stated with Riri, age is not an excuse for actions, just a reminder that you're probably dealing with someone immature. And just because you know their actions are wrong and you're around their age, their mentality might be different. Now, this also does not excuse Riri or her fans' actions, since this was just the action of a kid who was a fan who wanted to draw like the artist they enjoyed. The user might have known that heavily referencing wasn't a good idea, but probably assumed since tutorials are up they could do it. But then again, Riri's bio clearly states she does not want her work heavily referenced. But overall about the user, while they did make the mistake of not simply listening to what Riri wanted, the user is just a kid who most likely looked up to her and meant no ill intent. And while that does not excuse their actions, it should at least let people know to cut them some slack, because they probably would have listened if told to remove the video. And a lot of people are saying that Riri made the style so people can't copy it, or that she has a right over how people use the style. But that's completely wrong, and it brings in my argument about art style theft. Art style theft is not real, and you literally cannot own an art style or even copyright one. And even if she did make the style on her own and did not take it from someone else, which I do not doubt, there are over 7 billion people on this earth, and it would not be likely that she's the only person on earth who made this style. As far as I know, Riri has never stated that she created the style, only her fans, but if she has, correct me. Art styles are free to use for anyone, and there's nothing people can do about it. No matter how original you think your style is, it unfortunately isn't. Overall, I don't think either should be being harassment, as they're both just immature people on the internet making immature decisions. This does not excuse the actions done, but harassment is never the answer. We should be properly educating people on why these things are wrong, not mindlessly hating. And I'm aware Riri has done some messed up things, like telling a hater to off themselves, and the whole Dolly Esther situation, which I heard was really bad, but I think that harassment is never a good answer, because they most likely won't listen either way, especially if you come at them with a malicious manner. Being the bigger person is the best way to go. But I'm not saying to not hold them accountable, but to make sure you go about things the right way. You want to try and approach them with a mature and respectful approach, otherwise it's just going to cause arguing and more issues, and if they don't listen to you the first time you tell them, then move on, because it's just a waste of your time and energy. It'll hopefully sink in one day, and all you could do is hope for that to happen. Riri had every right to be upset, but her reaction was uncalled for. The user was allowed to follow her tutorials, but should not have heavily referenced the art if the artist did not want them to. Obviously everyone can do what they want, but as usual I just do commentary for fun, and these are just my opinions. I'm honestly disgusted by Riri and how she stated she'd do things again for the clout, and outside of her just being an immature 18-year-old, her actions were terrible, and no matter how old or immature she is, she needs to be held accountable and learn that these actions are wrong and grow as a person, because what she did was gross. She seemed like she had no remorse for what she did, and that's a big reason she's dealing with hate. That 13-year-old got told to off themselves, and I heard they even got doxxed. This is something that someone, especially a child, should not have to go through. It is sad, and I hope they're doing okay now. The whole drama was incredibly dumb because it could have just been handled in the comments or DMs, and it could have just stayed at that, but the overreaction just caused some big drama that was unnecessary. And for the people who use this drama as an excuse to hate on people who use the style or the style itself, don't do that. The style did nothing wrong or the people who use it, just one popular user of it. I've seen this done in so many art dramas, and it's disgusting because it makes so many innocent artists feel disgusted in their own work, and it makes them feel insecure, which they shouldn't be feeling insecure because their art is beautiful. And people hating on the art style is shifting the attention away from the thing at hand that needs to be spoken about, which is the artist's actions, not their art styles. And again, I know Riri might see this depending on how big this gets, since she saw Dolly Estra's video and possibly my other video that was on the jelly art style itself, and her fans might see this, but again, this is not hate, this is just explaining the situation and holding everyone accountable for what actions they did wrong in the situation. This is respectful criticism on the actions done, and I again do not want anyone going out of their way to harass anyone involved. And if anyone mentioned in this video or anyone a part of this drama has any facts, any changing, or parts of their side to share, comment so I can know what I may have gotten wrong, or if you just want to explain your reasoning or side to things. But what do you guys think? Do you think Riri or the user was in the wrong? Or both? What about the way things were handled? And do you think this whole drama is dumb? As usual, comment your thoughts and ideas for future videos. Here are the codes for today's video, and make sure to like, comment your thoughts and opinions, and subscribe. We just reached 10,000 subscribers, so thank you so much for that. My next goal is 15,000 subscribers. I want to keep my goals small so they're easier to achieve. Well, that's kind of it, and on screen in just a second, I'm about to show some awesome fan art made by my viewers. Make sure to subscribe to their channels. Bye!